Scales. We jump off the deck into the deep jade-green sea. The chill takes my breath away, and I turn to Viv, whose shriek echoes off the nearby cliffs. She laughs. I wasn't expecting the water to be that cold. She's treading water, her dark head sleek like a seal. Then she dives under, and her flippers break the surface momentarily. I follow suit, and we go down 2 or 3 metres, where the rocks are clustered with anemones like rubies. Colourful fish catch the light from above. The water is my playground, for I am freed from the pain in my legs. With flippers I swim like a fish, twisting and turning. Even without them, I'm agile in the water. Viv has already resurfaced when I join her near the boat. "That was weird," she calls. "For a minute there, I couldn't see your legs. It looked like you had a fishy tail instead, like a mermaid." Mermaids are female. Last time I looked, I was still a man. A merman, then. Must have been a trick of the light. But instead of 2 white legs, you had a scaly blue-grey tail with fins. "Let's go again, see what happens," I say, taking a deep breath, arching my back and powering vertically into the depths. She's right behind me as we resurface. She spits a fountain of seawater. No tail that time, just legs. "You're losing the plot, woman. The sun has addled your brain. Or maybe too many cocktails last night?" 6 weeks later, back in the cold and wet of an English winter, a taxi drops Viv and me outside the hospital. She commandeers a wheelchair for me and negotiates the corridors, the lift, and more corridors until we reach the appropriate waiting room. The consultant calls me in a few minutes later. "I've had the results of your scan. I'm sorry, Dean. We can't do anything more. We need to amputate your left leg above the knee." I clench my fists and feel the nails dig into my palms. It was expected, but that doesn't mean it's any less devastating. I'm going to be out of action for a while. Probably months while I learn to walk with a prosthetic limb. We'll have to cancel that fortnight in the Maldives. Back in the waiting room, I don't need to say anything. Viv can tell from my face. She calls a taxi and we wait in silence. There's nothing much to say. Back at home, she puts the kettle on. "Look on the bright side, Dean. It would be worse if you were a postman. IT wizards don't need legs, and anyway, you'll still have one. Once you've recovered, you'll still be able to swim. We can put off the Maldives trip for a few months. We'll get priority boarding on flights." It's all right for her. She's not the one losing a leg. But I stop myself from saying these words. I take my coffee into the garden and stare at the fish in our pond. Big golden carp. They belonged to my dad. He also had vascular disease, and it killed him aged 55. I've got 2 choices. I can feel sorry for myself, or I can get on with my life. Eat more vegetables, get stuck into the post-operative physiotherapy, maybe pump iron at the gym, build some impressive pecs, make the most of whatever time I've got left. I wonder how much it would cost to buy a latex mermaid tail.
Where is Desdemona? Let me introduce myself. Othello is my name. No, not that one in the play, plus no one could ever portray me on the stage. I am unique. One of a kind, they tell me all the time. My name is different from the others like me. I meet. Everyone asks about my name. It's always explained in the words I do not understand. We saw him on the 23rd of April. He was black with beautiful curls. That was true. That was then now celebrating my 9th birthday. My coat is streaked with grey, worryingly. I never found this Desdemona. Should I be so very concerned? Because I'm not. Just joyful that the humans take me and my ball on adventures up the hills, over the moors, and down to the sea for a paddle when the sun is warm. What a lucky dog I am. Thinking perhaps my ball is Desdemona, but no one thought to tell me.
Shallow brown. The cry of the skewers, the cry of children, cutting through the sough and skirl of the breakers, the salt sting of spray on my face. Sea and sky are the same grey, fused, indefinite. Through it all, I hear a voice keening, cleaving through the sound of the waves scouring the rocks, and the gannets call back in echo. The voice goes on, ebbing and swelling, and the wind gusts. It is a sound of longing, of desperation, of desolation. It speaks to me in my solitude, here, far away from it all. A woman singing her heart-rending song into the blown spume on a remote shore of a small Hebridean island. I think I can see a figure through the spray, standing on a rocky outcrop, staring out to sea, hair streaming behind in the wind. I think I can. And yet when I move nearer, there is only a wave-scarred post, one of a line. Remains perhaps of an ancient jetty jutting out, stretching out towards distant destinations, shoals for the catching, or far shores for the going away, for the escaping, for the running away. Back in the low stone cottage I have rented, as I close the door, the skirl and swirl of sea and wind and gull fades away into a stunned silence. It is as though life has frozen. I put on a kettle and switch on the radio, Radio 3, and I, too, freeze. It is the song I heard on the shore. And now I hear the words. Shallow brown, the voice sings, you're going to leave me. And the chorus of distant men echo, shallow, shallow brown. Shallow brown, don't ne'er deceive me. Shallow, shallow brown. And under it, violins and violas and cellos are frantic tremolandos, swirling and gusting in waves, the surge of waves, the cry of the gulls. The strings swell louder, then suck back, then peak to a crest, a climax, an unbearable intensity. And over this, the voice, the desperate voice, for your return, my heart is burning, cries the voice. Shallow, shallow brown, responds the chorus of kittiwakes, of skewers, of herring gulls, of fulmars and gannets. It reaches into my soul, and I know running away is no answer. I am here from cowardice, for refusing to face up to things. I am shallow brown, faithless, futile, feeble. As after the final Shallow, shallow rock. The strings calm into stillness. I know I must return, go back, face the music. Leave the sea muse to their wild, surging drama, these broad shores, calling their unfettered cries into the tumult of the sea.
Johnny. Always eager for a beer, no matter what time of year. Just a normal lad, whole life ahead of him. As I used to wait, his dad occasionally groaned and convulsed, unable to control his movements, his arms and legs kicking out. Johnny's fate was never in doubt. One morning off to the seaside we were to go, cooling our feet in the murky brown sea air. That was Barry. A lush day we spent there, whiffing the salty sea air, watching football once in a while, before God came to take him early, wearing a knowing smile.
Suddenly, Granny. Dolores put the letter down and reached for her tea. It was stone cold. She looked up. She hadn't even clipped the top off the boiled egg. I need a mug of tea. She put the kettle on and it started to quietly whistle and puff at her. She stared out the window. She had read the letter so many times she almost knew it by heart. It wasn't very long. Dear Ma, I don't know where to start. I suppose I better start by saying I'm sorry. I'm okay, and I'm in London. I've been here for about 2 years. 2 years? Where was she till then? The kettle clicked. Dolores made the tea and sat back down at the table. She picked up the letter and read it again. You're not going to like this next bit, Ma, even though I love it. I have a daughter. She's 8 months old. Her name is Mia Dolores Ryan. So now you know. I'm not married either. Sorry. What kind of a name is Mia? Mia Dolores. Mia Dolores. Mammy, I want to come home. You probably don't want me to, but I want Mia to grow up in Ireland. So I'm coming back. But I'll only come to Collinstown Park if you want me to. My flight's on the 27th of June. The 27th of June. Dolores rooted in her bag for her diary. Less than 3 weeks. I've written my number on the back. Will you ring me, Ma? It's an English number, so you'll have to dial all the numbers on it. I'm really sorry, Ma. I'd love to see you. Love, Martina. P.S. Mia sends a kiss to Granny. Dolores put the letter down and sat back in the chair. Mia sends a kiss to Granny. Granny. Hearing herself say the words brought tears, and then laughter, and then more tears. And while the tea went cold, Mia's Granny, she could get used to being called that. She picked up the letter and read it again.
The tipping point. It was only afterwards that any of us began to understand. The last days of the last month of the final summer were idyllic. Too good to be true, some said. The weather shouldn't have been that hot. But we all enjoyed it. It helped us forget about the thing we all refused to name, though it was there, in the papers, on the TV, on our phones every day. It was only afterwards that any of us began to see. Thank goodness the children can get out and play, we said. We sat back with our Camparis and our Negronis, relaxing in our gardens in the evenings, as the sky turned shades of red and umber, and the lushness of the bushes darkened around us. Let's toast our freedom, someone said. We must be grateful for that. Life's just like our cocktails, said another, the balance of the sweet and the sour. We laughed, though we knew that it wasn't funny. None of us could think straight, not then. It was only afterwards that any of us realised how unhappy the children had been, and that they had started talking to one another about what they would do. The shift was abrupt, and yet not. The change from one season to another was not as it should have been. When we came out of the shops where the temperature was controlled, we realised how warm the air still was. Almost like the tropics, someone said. Come on, said another. We've known this happen before, haven't we? There's nothing to worry about. Is there? It was only afterwards that we realised we had been oblivious to the speed of change, in denial. When the tipping point came, it was as simple and as complicated as a piece of paper floating to the floor. Something that could not be ignored. Within an hour, people were out on the streets, cheering, declaring a victory. But by the end of the day, the soldiers had appeared. It was only afterwards that the rest of us realised that we had missed a trick. They took our cars. Wrecking balls were brought into the town squares. It was a ritual humiliation. Buses and trains, they said, would continue as before, which was no comfort considering the state they were in. The cocktail hour was a thing of the past, but we stocked up on wine, joking to one another that we'd better do so before they took that too. We appreciate the little things more, the sunlight striking on the wall in the morning, the sweet taste of butter on our vegetables, when we get it, the warmth and softness of a cat's back. Those of us who remain meet only in twos and threes. Some have had messages from the children telling us that they have things in hand. They don't want us to worry. Though of course we do. We blame ourselves. And now we realise what's left of the wine is sour.